psychologists actually say that 10 minutes of quality time with your kid where you're doing something that you both enjoy is really all that's needed for a child to feel loved. And when they feel loved, their behaviors, like these negative behaviors, they go down. And
Yeah.
your child is more well behaved. They feel loved. They're better. You know, when you're a good communicator, they become better communicators.
Unleash the untapped potential within you as we dive fearlessly into the realms of healing, personal growth, self-love, and uncharted territories of the human experience. Join us as we navigate relationships, conquer career and business milestones, and explore the depths of spirituality. This isn't just a podcast, it's a manifesto for the resilient, the ambitious, the soul-searching women and men of today. Grab your coffee and let's dive in with Beyond the Surface.
Welcome back to another episode here on Beyond the Surface. And today I am joined and so honored and really excited to dive into this conversation with you, Alysia. So first and foremost, thanks so much for being here with me, with us today. I'm so grateful and excited to see where this conversation goes with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I always love to first and foremost give you the floor because nobody can talk about us better than we can, although that is such a challenging thing to do at the same time. But I'd love for you to just share a little bit more about who you are, what you do in the world, and whatever feels like true in this moment for you.
Sure. So I'm Alysia Lyons, and I am a mom of an amazing 12-year-old boy. I am a fiance and a coach and an author and all those kinds of fun things. And I like to support moms in creating more peace in their life. About, I want to say, 7 years or so, I kind of tripped and fell and landed on my face into this coaching world. And it's been an amazing journey that I wouldn't change for the world, but it's had its challenges, it's had its ups and downs, and I kind of like parenthood.
I love it. I kind of like it. It's not too bad.
You know, it's like I love to say about being a mom is like you have this idea of what being a mom is going to look like, and then reality comes and kicks you in the teeth, and but you still wouldn't change it for the world. So my coaching experience.
So, I mean, I'd love to kind of start there then. Like, what was kind of your vision that you had for motherhood, and how did it, how was it not what you expected, or in ways also probably things that you did expect?
Yeah. So it's funny because I didn't always know that I wanted to be a mom. In fact, I was adamant about not wanting to be a mom. When I was 16 years old, I said I will never have children, and that lasted for a good 10 years. And then biology kicked in, and so I don't know that I ever actually wanted to be a mom necessarily, but I did want to be a family. There was the biological like need to birth a child. But I also I was married, and we had decided that we wanted to have a kid, and I was like, it needs to happen yesterday. And when it didn't happen in that first 6 months, my son's dad said, like, hey, you need to just chill out, because we're going to be happy with a kid and we're going to be happy without a kid. So just like whatever will be, will be. And probably the wisest thing that he ever said to me. And I think it took another year before I got pregnant. Without going into all the details, his dad was deployed when I was giving birth, so that was not what I imagined. And then when my son was 14 months old, his dad and I split up, and so I really had to redefine what family was. Um, and that was the hard part, because I know, like, there was this moment when my son was 6 months old, because that was when we first talked about separating. That I actually would have rather died than be a single mom. I fell into this pit of despair that lasted for years, and I don't even know if I could pinpoint when it ended. I know when it started, but I don't know. It was like I was working on myself for so long, that, and it just kind of gradually got better and better and better. And it was, as I look back, it was the times that I had support where I had more moments of happiness. Yeah, it was a journey. Like, I watched my mom be a single mom, and when, my parents split up at the same age that my son and his dad and I split up.
Interesting.
Yeah. And cycles.
Yeah. Do you feel like there was a lot that you unpacked, and I'm kind of just, I think, in awe with synchronicity in a sense, because I resonate a lot with being on this journey of feeling like, I'm not sure if I want to have kids. And then getting to a place where I'm kind of like, okay, like, I'm open. And I think part of where, for myself, where it was coming from was a lot of fear. And now that you say that, I also watched my mom be a single mom all my life. Like, my parents split up when I was 3. And so there was just a lot of fear watching her struggle and watching her work three jobs, just to put food on the table, have a roof over mine and my sister's heads. You know what I mean? And seeing that there created a lot of fear and stories and beliefs. And, yeah, I'm curious, like, was that something that really impacted you wanting to go on this journey of becoming a mom? And I also resonate, before you answer, I also resonate with, I feel like I talk to a lot of women, or I feel like maybe it's like 50-50, but I feel like a lot of women that I talk to are like, I've always dreamt of being a mother. And I have never resonated with that, but I love what you said. And this created this beautiful, like, aha in hearing you, was that not necessarily like the motherhood, but like the family. And I was like, ooh, I really loved that you said that. That was I resonated deeply with that. So thank you for sharing that. But I'm curious if that impacted your journey of wanting to become a mom.
But I think that before 16, I wanted to be a mom, because, like, I have an amazing relationship with my mom, which I know is not true of a lot of people, but I have an amazing relationship with my mom. And I think there was a part of me that wanted that. And then I just was overloaded with, when you're a teenage girl, like, the job that you get is babysitting. And I went a little overboard one summer, just being a camp counselor for 7 out of the 9 weeks possible.
Gotcha.
And it was literally because they made me go home, that I wasn't there the whole 9 weeks. So yeah, it was a like, I had, like, I wanted to be my mom, like, and I wanted to be a school teacher until I spent all my whole summer around the kids, and I was like, okay, I'm over this, I don't want to be around kids anymore. And both my parents remarried when I was 4, and so they didn't have, like, single parents alone, but that dynamic of having step parents was created a lot of stuff that I didn't want for my son. And so there was only one person that I that I dated for any length of time between my divorce and my fiance. And we only fought 3 times in the 8 months that we were together, but the thing that we fought about was my son. And the thing that my mom fought about with her husband was me. And I was like, I'm not doing that to my kid. Like, that's not happening. So, you know, and he was a super nice guy, but I have theories about, you know, people that with stepchildren and what makes you actually like the stepchild.
Fair.
Yeah.
Totally. Gotcha. Yeah, it's such an interesting, like, introspective journey that we go on. You know, at least if we have that time and space to be able to have that space, right? To actually like evaluate, is this something that is this the path that I want to go on and whatnot? But kind of going into the guilt aspect, what I was thinking about and the question that was kind of, I was pondering as someone who supports moms with guilt. And I see that, you know what I mean? I'm not a mom myself, but I just see the guilt, you know what I mean, in my own mom. And I see how much stress and all of that she's experienced throughout her life. But where do you feel like in your, maybe this is so loaded and maybe there's so many answers to this, but like, where do you feel like the guilt comes from?
It comes from lots of places. Number one, it's in the water. So like, it feels like they hand you a baby and then they hand you 500 pounds of guilt to go along with that baby. But a lot of it is that we just love them so much, and we're very programmed to be really hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we love them, and we decide that we want the best for them, and we also think that the best for them means that they don't suffer. And so if there's anything that happens that's in or out of our control, that we didn't plan on or we didn't want to happen, now that's something that creates guilt. Or we look at the other moms on Instagram or on Facebook and who are doing they're the room moms and the cookie moms and the, you know, house looks perfect moms, and you're not that way. And so you're looking at like, well, my kid does deserve better than me and what I'm doing. And I know you felt the weight of that sentence. Like, it's not true. Like, what I believe is that our children actually pick us to be their parents, and that we are the perfect parent for our children. And the mistakes that we make or the things that we look at as mistakes are actually part of their life's journey.
Oof.
And when you take this higher perspective and look at it that way, like, I've gotten myself out of a lot of guilt because I know that my son chose me, and the things that have happened in his life because of my choices are part of his life's story.
I love that. And you know, it's just interesting. That's the perspective that I have with my dad. You know, I was with my mom, so I, like you, have a very close relationship with my mom, but I had a very strange relationship with my dad. But being able to be on the other side, and now, you know, for the last 10 years we've had a relationship, but that has been this piece of perspective that has given me the space to have so much grace and compassion with my dad, because I equally believe that. I believe that, like, his soul contract here on earth was, you know, he's played it out completely, fully, exactly as he was meant to. And it's has served its purpose with me, because I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the perspective and the experiences that I have had it been played out differently. So I think it just allows us to have some grace on ourselves and for our parents too.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
having that, like we have depending on how tall we are, we have a 5'8" perspective of our
Yeah.
life, and but there's a 10-foot perspective of our life where there's these chess pieces that are happening, that are moving around, that are all lined up for us to learn lessons.
Mm.
And same thing. I mean, my dad passed away 2 years ago now, and he and I didn't have the closest relationship. But when I got into coaching, I had a story that my dad didn't love me at all. He was
Mm.
in my life, and he was there, like he was always there, but I didn't think that he loved me. And my life coach was so brilliant, and she said, I know you have a lot of evidence that he doesn't love you, but start looking for some evidence that he does. And when I did that, it like unlocked this vault of experiences and things that he did to show me that he loved me in his way.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then that made me realize, I was like, my dad and I just didn't have the same love language. And so I
Ooh.
turned around and I said to my son, I was like, and he was 6 at the time, I want to say, and I said, so what does mommy do that makes you feel the most loved?
Mm.
And he said, when you snuggle me. And I was just like, I just fell like I went limp, because that was the thing that I was doing the least at that time.
Gotcha.
And part of it was because of some of the guilt that I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I let go of the guilt, and I knew that that was something that he loved, it became this thing that I made sure that I did every day. And now we have our own language for it, so I'll ask him, how's your love bucket? Is your love
No.
bucket full? How's your attention bucket? How's, like, is there anything that you need? And he will come and tell me. If I don't ask, he'll come and tell me, and he'll go, Mom, my love bucket is empty. And I'll say, oh, I'm
Mm.
sorry. What do we need to do to fix that? Well, I need a hug. Okay, I'll give you a hug, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I need you to buy me a ball at Walmart. Okay. I'll buy you a ball at Walmart,
Yeah.
and, he doesn't abuse it by any means, but every once in a while I'm like, maybe you need to buy your own ball at Walmart. We've already so
Yeah. I think I really love, like, that is going to be a question that I feel like is in my back pocket forever now, because it's so simple, right? To simply kind of come to, and I think sometimes there's this like looking at like the parent child relationship and just instead removing these labels and just human to human connection. And like that question that you asked about love, just like what can you do, and it allows us to put language to, and specific language. Like, I love when you snuggle me, like, okay, how easy it is to be able to, and instead of going down this whole spiral and rabbit hole of not knowing, not communicating. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that kind of, that is the most crucial, and the thing that we really don't know how to do is the communication aspect. I've shared a lot about this experience and this story with my dad, where a couple birthdays ago, he I was pretty upset because he didn't pick up the phone and call. And I get, it's a working day and we're busy, and I get it. But he kind of went on Facebook and kind of posted something, and I was really upset because I was like, in the 2 seconds that it took you to go and do this, you could have just dialed my phone number and called me. And instead of just being upset about it, I took the opportunity to say, hey, look, like, I don't appreciate that, and I would have rathered you not post anything and just call me the next day or whatever the case may be. But like, I'd rather you just pick up the phone for 2 seconds to call me. And sure enough, he's never done it again. And that communication piece is so important. We need to be able to communicate what we need from our parents, from not just our parents, but literally everyone in our lives, like all the relationships, getting to that place where we can feel safe to communicate what we need to feel loved, to feel seen, to feel heard, because that's what we all want to our core. And it's that communication piece it's like simple, but it's so difficult at the same time. Like it's uncomfortable. It can feel uncomfortable, but it eliminates all this guessing work and this unknown and this overthinking, and that is so much more draining than to the source, have the conversation, and it eliminates all the other pieces that we're kind of spiraling around.
Yeah. And I see mom guilt everywhere. Like that's the thing that I I see.
Of course.
My guilty pleasure is watching the Kardashians, and I'm watching this episode that just came out with Chloe, and she's talking about how overwhelming motherhood is because she's the only one that can make lunches for her kid the right way, and that all this thing that she used to do with cutting it into shape, cutting the sandwiches into shapes, and like now God forbid that she doesn't do it because she set it up, and so now it's an expectation, right? Where if she did want to make a change, her daughter's 5 or 6 years old now. I don't keep up with all the ages of all the kids.
Yeah.
If she just said to her daughter, like, hey, I love you so much. I do so many things for you, and it's a lot. Like, and I really need to take care of myself, and I need to take care of mommy right now. What's your favorite thing that I do? And I'm going to do that. Like, pick one or two things that you love, like, and if she did those two things, psychologists actually say that 10 minutes of quality time with your kid where you're doing something that you both enjoy is really all that's needed for a child to feel loved. And when they feel loved, their behaviors, like these negative behaviors, they go down, and your child is more well behaved. They feel loved. They're better. When you're a good communicator, they become better communicators. Like it's so much, like it's such a good idea to better yourself. Because my podcast is called Imperfect Momming, Better Parenting Through Self-Healing, because I recognized that as I became a better person, I became a better parent. And I'm not the person who reads all the parenting books. I read one. It changed my life. It really did. But I read one, and it was around the time that my son was 8, and it was because my fiance was like, "You're really into all this personal development stuff. Might be a good idea if you picked up a parenting book." And we were having some drama discipline, and I found this book called No Drama Discipline, and I was like, "Sign me up for No Drama Discipline. I am on board." And it was a personal development book disguised as a parenting book. And then I bought all of the books that he wrote, that Dr. Dan Siegel wrote, and I've, started and finished maybe none of them other than that one.
And that happens, right? But I think that's, like I feel like that focus of just, whatever you want to label it as, 1% better every single day. But it's not necessarily only going to come from the parenting books. It's in the conversations that you have with other parents, but not even just other parents. It's just looking at all the areas of our lives and how, when you take care of your emotional, physical, like all your well-being, how that reflects and creates this ripple effect in your life, but then it's a beautiful representation of how there's this ripple effect in the lives of everyone around us. And that includes our children. And then in ways that includes their future children. And this is where this beautiful thing of like, the generations that come after us, this is where we create like little like pieces of healing and bettering ourselves and passing down like new ways of being to our generations. And it's such a beautiful opportunity and choice as well. That's a big part of it, right? It's the choice to say, yeah, I'm not perfect. Perfect doesn't exist, but I'm just wanting to be better. I'm just wanting to be better and to see the things where I can do better. And in asking those conversations can be so vulnerable, right? Like even just going to your child and asking your child, like, what can I do better? Like, what do I really love? And it creates this acknowledgement of like, ooh, I haven't really been doing that. Yeah.
It's interesting because, guilt pops in and pops up every once in a while. And I do want to also finish answering the guilt question because guilt is a notification. A friend of mine was, she and I were texting and she said, sorry that my responses are so infrequent. I'm coloring with my son. And I was like, I don't color with my son. If I was a better mom, I would color with my son. And then I thought, well, he doesn't actually like to color. So that would be just torture for both of us, and so instead I asked him, like, is there something that you would like to do tonight? Is there something fun, a fun activity that you want to do? And he's like, I want to jump on the trampoline with you. And I loathe getting up onto and off of the trampoline. But I was more than happy to throw water balloons at him while he dodged them on the trampoline. And it was a blast. He had so much fun, and so did I. Like, it was way better than sitting and coloring.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of feeds into like that's the social aspect, right? That's the looking at other people. So
yeah,
essentially guilt is a notification that what you're doing is out of alignment with your values. So now when you feel guilt, you can think, oh, what value am I violating? So my cat never is on my desk, and apparently now is the time to knock things off. And
your cat knows I'm a cat person, so I welcome your cat being here.
I was like, I guess I'll pet him. He had a sibling, and his sibling has gone missing, and so he's a lot more clingy with us because he doesn't have a sibling to play with. But so I came up with this notification thing because I was driving my fiance's car, and it was the first time I had driven the ultra fancy car where it like beeps at you when you're about to hit something. And so someone pulled in front of me, and it beeped, beep, 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 beep. And I was like, it's not my fault. They pulled in front of me. And my fiance was like, it's not an accusation. It's a notification. And I was like, oh, well, that's what guilt is. Like we feel like, oh, here's this guilt, and we have to hold on to it. And we have to, this is our cross to bear. Right. So a common thing that moms feel guilty about is, working, either wanting to or have to do it, right? Because basically they have a rule that a good mom doesn't work or doesn't want to work, right? A good mom stays home with their kids. And so when we have these rules, you have two options. You can change what you're doing. You can change your behavior, or you can change the belief. So if the behavior is, I go to work, and we'll just pick that I want to go to work, right? I'm choosing to have a job that fulfills me,
Yeah.
then that is something you could change. But, if financially you don't have to work, it's something you could change. But what are the benefits of you following your dreams? Is that your kids get to watch that happen, and they're monkey see, monkey do. Like, they're way more likely to follow their dreams because they watched mom follow hers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and if it's, let's say you don't want to work, but you have to, I mean, how guilty would you feel if you were living in a car?
Yeah.
It's like you're providing other needs for them by going to work. And so you get to, that's where the 10 minutes a day of quality time, because even your mom, who had 3 jobs, probably had 10 minutes of quality time to give to you.
Yeah. Like I don't think I ever felt like she wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like I never felt that, even though she worked all that time.
Yeah. I can't think of a single time where I was like, oh man, I really wish my mom didn't have a job. Like I don't have a single moment. So,
Yeah.
some kids do, but this is when you can, talk to your kids and say, like, hey, mommy goes to work because going to work and providing for your family and putting a roof over your head and like money is something that we need. And we get money by going to our jobs. And so I don't love my job more than I love you, but I do love being able to give you food and have a roof over your head and clothes on your back. Like, I do love that, and I want to take care of you that way.
Yeah.
And kids get it,
Totally.
They get it.
Of course. When we sit down and explain, and I agree. Like I've never wished that my mom didn't have a job. I just wish she didn't have to work. 3. You know what I mean? It was never about having the job and that. It was more so around the suffering, right? And funny enough, me and my sisters, we all started working at a very young age and we all kind of like collectively almost had this like take in it where it was like we're doing this to bring support to my mom, loosen that load off of her. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was kind of like having a job allowed me to pay for what I needed so that my mom, like, mom, I've got myself and you don't have to worry,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never said, hey mom, I wish you didn't have a job.
Yeah.
So,
and what I'm hearing in that is that her working as much as she did gave you a sense of responsibility for yourself.
yeah.
And you also got to show her love by like, I'm not going to depend on you to take care of my needs because you do so much for me already.
Yeah.
And it's possible that part of her feels guilty that she had to work 3 jobs and that you guys started working so young. And it's like, but what did you learn from it? You learned amazing work ethic,
Yeah.
And what more can we do for our kids?
Yeah. I think it's all, and I'm curious your kind of perspective, but what I'm thinking is like, it literally is all about perspective. It's kind of like, what are we choosing to focus on? Are we focusing on like, I guess, is it that the guilt is coming from a place of lack for, I don't know if this, I'm curious your perspective. Like, is it that it's coming from this place of lack? Whereas if we were to kind of shift to more of, quote unquote, more of an abundance mindset, it's kind of looking at, this is all the things that I received because of. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would definitely call it a lack mindset, that, or at least focusing on the negative, which is probably a same, different words to the same thing. Because that's where I was with my relationship with my dad. I was looking at the lack because I was looking at the things that I didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
From probably up until I was 12 years old, I got a lot of attention or I had a lot of access to my dad. And then at 12, 13 years old, I had a lot less access.
Mm.
And when I talked to him about it, I didn't get I didn't get a response from him. I didn't have him say, we're here because like I want to provide a good life for you, and I didn't get those 10 minutes, and like I was focused on all of those things that I wasn't getting.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
when my life coach helped me shift my focus, then I started seeing all the things that he did do. He like there's a lot of dads that aren't around, period. Like they just
Mm-hmm.
leave. And they don't care. And
Yeah.
my dad was there. We had a set schedule for, like 50-50 time. He always paid child support on time. He was like, he fought for that.
Mm.
And that's something that I can be grateful for.
Yeah.
My favorite memory that came to me, I'm going to share two because one of them didn't hit me until after he passed. But
Okay.
he always on Valentine's Day, he lived an hour away from us, and he would drive to Fresno
Wow.
to leave me a Valentine's Day gift every Valentine's Day. And he doesn't remember doing that, because I remember when it came to me, I thanked him for it, and he's like, I did.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, you did. And then the thing that I remembered after he passed was, because he passed in April and my birthday was in August. And when you mentioned your birthday, it was like, my dad called me my dad made sure that I felt special on my birthday. He made sure everybody felt special on their birthday, but it was like, I felt special on my birthday. And it was like that first birthday that he had passed was the hardest one because I was also turning 40. But like, I remember I didn't get the phone call.
Yeah.
And he would play the Beatles' birthday song.
That's so sweet.
From the time I was a kid till till my last birthday with him on this earth. Like, and it was so, and now I'm doing that to people. So I'm calling people and I'm playing the song.
Oh,
so
that's beautiful.
So it's like, it is definitely the mindset.
Yeah.
And our negative mindset is part of being human, and we get to control.
It
We get
is.
to
And
control. Yeah.
yeah, and it's about giving ourselves grace and really, and it's such a I've always said this, like when you really need to change this like habit, and I really see this as a habit, you know what I mean? Where you're always focused on the negative versus being focused on kind of on more of the positive, if we're using that for lack of better words. But it's this like muscle that you have to constantly be exercising and moving, because then it becomes easier and easier to tap into the what you did have and what you do have and what you're doing right, quote unquote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like as being a parent, right? Like there's so much focus, or there it can be such a focus on the guilt. The guilt can come up so much. But if you don't kind of like shift the perspective in the moment, then it's like it's staying. But it's in that shifting of the perspective and doing it more consciously, the easier it becomes to kind of stop yourself quicker, rather than, I guess, more so what I'm trying to say is like staying and simmering and boiling in the guilt longer. It's kind of like this split second where the thought comes in about the guilt, and then you can course correct right away and say, wait a second, but this is what I'm doing. That, like, you know what I mean? Like it shortens this timeline of that we sit in this guilt, when you really train this muscle that you have.
Yeah.
And before too, I'd love for us to kind of tap into the peace that you talk about. We talked a lot about guilt, but I'd love to talk about and bring in the peace aspect. And like, how do we tap into more of that and create that shift from the guilt?
Yeah. So I discovered working with moms that there's basically 5 things that help increase or decrease our peace. And that's the pertinent people in our life, the people that we spend the most time with and care about the most, and our relationships with those people. And then our emotions, so guilt being one of them, but how much are we emotionally expressed? Our assets, the physical surroundings. So how peaceful are your physical surroundings?
Yeah.
When a fish is sick, they don't treat the fish, they treat the water, right? So it's our environment is important. Our schedule, so the chaos in our life, how chaotic is our schedule, and also and the exhaustion. So our self-care, where are we putting ourselves on the list of things to do?
Very beautiful like focal point, and it just feels like the word that comes through is just this like foundational, like it just feels like foundational, like pillars in our lives. And I feel like, there's going to be times where you're kind of putting more into one of those buckets, if you refer to them as buckets, but maybe you're kind of laying down the groundwork more in one of these pillars. But eventually it's about kind of creating this harmony between balancing all of them, right? Balance is not necessarily always going to be perfect, but you're going to at least have a sturdy structure. And I've always used it. The visual of pillars has always stood when I think about even like the wheel of life, and how you kind of really need to focus on all these areas, not just one, right? Because if you're only focusing on work, the money aspect, the financial, you have nothing else. And what happens if that aspect in your life, something goes wrong there? You have nothing else to stand for. And that's the crumbling that happens in our lives when we experience that. But if you are putting bit by bit and focusing on every little area of your life, then you still have other places to fall back on. You have community, like you said, the people that are around you. But it's really just like, how do we, I guess maybe the next question is kind of like, what's the easy way of balancing all these acts together so that it's harmonious, I guess, in a way, or it has balance?
So what I do is I offer a free peace assessment that is accessible on my website. And when essentially what I do is I walk through and I ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being every aspect of my relationship with the people that are important to me in my life and the people that I spend the most time around. It's exactly the way that I want it. And 1 is as far away from that as you can get. And so where would you rate yourself on this scale?
Yeah.
And then I walk you through all 5. And then we pick one that usually the one of the lowest. And then let's say you rated your exhaustion at a 2. So why so high? Like, you could have been a 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
It technically would be a -5. I've had people go on the negative scale. Like, you could have been beyond, you could have been a 1. So what are you doing that got you to a 2? And it gets you, it's that shift. It's the, what are the ways that your dad showed you that he loved you? Where's your evidence of what you are doing for yourself? And so what are you doing? And then what would it take to get you from a 2 to a 3? Because what we want to do is I want to go from a 2 to a 10.
Yeah.
And if we weren't already feeling overwhelmed, if we're a 2 on the self-care, we just created some more overwhelm, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And so it's like, then we go from the 2 to the 3. What is something this is kind of the SMART goals, where it's measurable, and you can have accountability. Somebody else can see that it's done. It's specific,
Yeah.
and it's calendarable. So what we want to avoid is, well, I want more sleep. So If you sleep 1 minute more than you slept yesterday, you just got 1 more minute. You got more sleep. So
Yeah.
congratulations, goal achieved, right?
Yep.
So like your brain loves and craves specifics and it needs
Mm-hmm.
it, right? So how much more? You want more money?
Yeah.
Great. I found a penny this morning in the dryer. It was the coolest looking penny, by the way. It's like all multicolored. I think it's been washed multiple times. Maybe with bleach even. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, now I have more money, right? Well,
Yeah.
that's not usually what we mean when we want more. So we need to be specific in what it is that we want. And
Yeah.
then how long do you need to do? Let's say you needed an hour more of sleep. How long would you need an hour more sleep for you to go from a 2 to a 3? And that
Mm-hmm.
gives you something that's tangible, measurable. I don't remember what SMART stands for, but you
Yeah.
can get some accountability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
And,
So
and you
like
work
simple.
one at a time, one or two. You don't
Exactly.
want to, like, if you do all of them, that might be overwhelming too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. One kind of focus, one area of focus, and just like little percentage better. You know what I mean? Every single day, a percentage better. So beautiful. I love this so much, and I love that you shared too where people can get this assessment and do that with you. I'd love for you to share. Is there any actually before we kind of close? I always love to ask this question. If you could distill your life's journey into like one piece of wisdom, what would that be?
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm.
And it's all small stuff, right?
Yeah.
If I could go back and do it all over again, I would get into personal development a lot earlier.
Yeah.
There's women that have gone through the coaching program that I went through when they were 20, and I think I found it when I was like 35, and I was like, where would I be if I had found it when I was 20? It's like, it's just that constant working on yourself. And like you said, the 1% better. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to try to make yourself perfect. Like, one day we decide to change our life and we spend the rest of our life changing our life. And it's a personal development. It's not personal development. Like, it's not a boxy check. It's a rest of your life journey.
Ooh, I love that. I love that so much. I'd love for you to share too, before we close, where can people follow you and connect with you if they feel called to work with you as well?
So I am at Mom Guilt Coach on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok predominantly, where I share videos. I haven't figured out how to do it on TikTok yet, or on Instagram yet, so it's mostly the videos from YouTube and TikTok.
Love it.
And if you want to go and have the free peace assessment, you can go to AlysiaLyons.com/peace. And my name is ALYSIALYONS.com/peace, PEACE.
I love that. Amazing. Thank you, first and foremost, so much for this conversation. I felt, I knew it was going to be a good conversation no matter where we went with it. And I really appreciate this conversation and really unpacking this piece around guilt, because there's just so many women that I'm thinking about in my life that I know are going to gain so much from hearing your words, your insight, your perspective, and also the things, the tools and the resources that you've shared. So I'm so grateful. So thank you so much for being here, for being in conversation with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me and allowing me to pour into your listeners.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to leave a review and continue the conversation with me over on social media. And we'll see you in the next episode.